Today I'm going to be diagnosing some electrical gremlins on the auxiliary battery system to hopefully figure out why my battery is dying prematurely. Coming up.
A bad day. That's the
Yeah! Hey, my name's Drew and this is Evergreen Overland. On this channel we do reviews on camping and overland gear, we hone our outdoor cooking skills and techniques, and we showcase 4x4 and off-road vehicle modifications like the one we're going to talk about today. I've been having an issue with my auxiliary power system in the back where the battery is not quite linking up correctly with the monitoring system and the battery is dying prematurely. I use a Redarc DC to DC 1225 charger to charge the auxiliary battery system off of the front battery when the vehicle is running. The auxiliary battery is a Battleborn 100 amp hour lithium ion battery, and the battery monitoring system I use is the Victron BMV 712 with the Bluetooth capable app. Right off the bat, if you are also using a Victron battery monitoring system and a Battleborn lithium-ion battery, head over to the Battleborn blog. On the third page down, there is a blog post called All About BMVs. You want to go through that and make sure that your settings in your battery monitoring system, using the Bluetooth app to put these settings in, are properly set up for the Battleborn lithium-ion battery. If you've made sure you set up that properly and you've gone through the process of making sure your battery is brought up to that 14.6 volts to synchronize the system correctly, and you're still having issues, then I guess you'll kind of come along with me in figuring out what's wrong with my system, because that's what's happened to me. It's been a little bit since I've installed the system. I've gotten some guidance from a couple of companies of the products I'm using to run it, and I need to go through and make sure everything's hooked up properly. And I know there's some stuff that needs to be changed on the negative side of the battery terminal that we'll talk about more. Let's get in there and start tearing into my auxiliary power system. So this is the low resistance shunt right here that all of your negatives have to go through to properly monitor your battery system. Literally the only thing that should be connected to this battery terminal right here, the negative side, this wire running to here, everything else should be going through the low draw shunt to this side and then going off from there. So I'm going to go ahead and get my charger, charging this battery up. This battery charger right here is not going to get it up to the 14.6 volts it wants to be at fully charged, but the reality is I don't have a battery charger outside of my BC to DC charger that will do that. So I'm going to get it up as high as I can using this thing and then make sure the BC to DC is properly wired up and try to finish charging it the remainder of that way with the BC to DC charger. Alright, for the most part I think I have that wired up correctly. All my negatives are getting run in the proper spot through the shunt. I'll have one ground coming off to the battery itself. And we're at 13.58, just the system output in voltage right there. That theoretically is a full charge on a lithium ion battery, but for all the cells in this to equalize properly and give a proper, charge readout, you really need to have it reach that 14.4, I think it might be 14.4 or 14.6 volts to know that it is fully charged. So now that I've got the negatives in the system and the shunt properly wired up as far as Redarc is concerned, I'm going to get the battery installed back in the system, pull the truck out of the garage to fire it up and see if I can get the BC to DC charger to read out 14.4 volts. And theoretically, once the system gets up to that 14.4 volts, the cells in the thing should equalize. It should synchronize with the Victron monitoring system, and it should be good to go. Trial and error mostly at this point, just making sure that I have it properly hooked up and charging off of the Redarc, so I know that that's not the issue. Negative side, I got the singular connection point running to the proper side of the Victron battery shunt. And when I flip my breaker so that the BC to DC charger hooks up, set to the proper charging parameters right there with lithium ion. Pull this thing out of the garage and see what the Redarc system does. Right now I got the circuit panel and the system turned off. I got the breaker on this side of the auxiliary system. Truck's running, and the battery monitoring system is showing the exact same thing it was, because in theory right now there's no load on the system whatsoever and no power going into the system. So real quick, throw this, and that should start sending power back to the Redarc system. It did. So we're just going to watch this for a second. At 14.4 volts, at the 14.4 the system should have been fully charged and equalized in theory, so seems like it's going back down to float voltage here. Goes up to 14.34, 13.8, 13.79. Right now we're solid with voltage coming in, and the stage light is blinking. So I think that means it's charging currently. Right now I'm going to kick off the truck. I'm going to turn on a pretty consistent draw on the system so I can see it start ticking down the percentage of state of charge and see what happens when it reaches that 90%. See if it turns off prematurely like it has been, or if it wants to show me the state of charge all the way down to, you know, a reasonable 0 or 15 or whatever it is. See if I can get us up there a little higher. Nice fluorescent bulb running. 12.13 at 99%. Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's something wrong with this battery. Still seeing a 12.6 draw on the system, 29.3 volts. I'm going to go ahead and kill that for a second. All the draw on the system is off. We're at 13.03. Which I found another guy on YouTube who seems to be really knowledgeable with lithium ion and battery technology in general. And he had a chart that showed that at like 13.0, this chart right here, at 13.0, it's at a 30% state of charge. So everything off to it, just battery standing by itself, it's already at a 30% state of charge. And that can't possibly be right because it was only drawing 12.5 amps on the system, and that was only, you know, 10 minutes that it was doing that at most, down to 30%. So that's telling me that there's something not allowing that battery to get charged up to its full 14.4, even though it's stating on everything that I can measure it with that it is getting charged up to that 14.4. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of at a loss right now, but we're going to turn the camera onto the Victron app until the thing times out like it has been and shuts off. So we're going to see what that happens at. Alright, the voltage is really ticking down now, and it's probably going to turn off any second. And you'll know when it turns off when this light goes off. And there it is. That's pretty much where it did it the other day too, so I don't know exactly what the issue is, but I think I need to get a hold of Battleborn again and go over it with them because something ain't right. Well, the saga of figuring out my issues with my backup auxiliary battery system kind of continue. I gave customer service over at Redarc a call over in Australia. You got to time it right depending on what time of day you are in the US or wherever you are in the world. And they kind of walked me through all the troubleshooting steps just to make sure that, you know, my alternator was putting out the right power and that the Redarc was receiving the right power and putting it out to the Battleborn battery that I have correctly. So pretty much for the most part, what we went over the phone, they're pretty certain that their system's working properly, but realistically the next step in testing anything of the system is going to be to make sure that the Battleborn battery is 100% topped off. And the only way to really do that is to get a charger that's compatible with lithium batteries. Battleborn sent me a battery charger as a loaner, which was really cool of them to do. I'm going to unhook the battery from the back of the truck and get it on the charger so that we can kind of continue to rule out what could possibly be going wrong in my system. I'm going to go ahead and bolt this on just so I know it has an optimal connection. Well, right here, according to the manual, all I really have to do is set it to lithium ion mode. It will recognize everything and adjust accordingly. And then the manual says, once it switches to ABS mode, it is showing that the system is 80% charged and ready for use when the absorption LED switch is on. I could be wrong in what that's indicating, but it tells me that it is receiving the wrong current feedback from the battery itself, because there's no way this thing is 80% charged. It's completely depleted. So I'm thinking there might be something wrong in the battery, but I'm going to have to give Battleborn a call and get their feedback on what that could mean for what I'm experiencing. Got the Victron monitor all figured out, and the guys over at Battleborn emailed me exactly how I should set up a custom charging algorithm with that thing. So it kind of changed all the parameters of how it charged to kind of force this thing to bulk charge. At first in the lithium setting, it was just going into bulk charge, quickly going to absorption charge, and then it would get to float within, you know, whatever, an hour or two or whatever. And that couldn't possibly be right because this thing is definitely depleted, and the float indicates that the battery is 80% charged or more, kind of a thing. So anyway, with the new charging parameters, I forced this thing bulk charge for, I don't know, at least 6 hours. and then it slowly went into absorption, and then float mode, and then inevitably into storage. So in theory, it should have gotten up to full capacity. Testing it, it should be somewhere around like 13.6 or something like that if it's full at float. So it is currently at 13.67. Basically, the next test and troubleshooting is to reinstall this into my auxiliary spot in the truck and draw down the power with all of my accessories as much as possible. See in the Victron battery monitor system, watch that battery level go down all the way to probably 0. I'm just gonna let it run and run to make sure that the system is properly discharging and properly synchronized to rule out if it is an issue with the battery monitoring system inside this battery or any of the cells. Battleborn says the situation I'm going through is really, really uncommon, and I believe it. I know they're a good company. I know they've got a good reputation, so I just appreciate all the customer service from Battleborn and Redarc trying to figure out what's going on. Let's install this into the truck. Yep, so there you have it. It's drawing 8.5 amps right there, 99%. Well, not to be pessimistic, but if I'm using the state of charge indicator here by the voltage readout, we are already at 17 to 20% right there, somewhere right in the middle. That pretty much confirms that it is the battery that's the issue here. So got to get a hold of Battleborn and get a replacement, I guess, or ask what their next move might be. So kind of bummed that the battery is probably bad, but I'm excited that I know what the issue is. Well, as you guys just saw, I was still experiencing issues with the battery backup system. And even after Battleborn sent me the battery charger to make sure the battery was topped off properly in a lithium-ion charging state with that charger, it still pulled down and died prematurely, kind of confirming for me that there was something wrong in the battery. So after that last test, I got in touch with them and they said, yeah, send it in to us. We're going to do a test on it in our shop. They sent me all the shipping stuff, all the information for the side of the case. They paid for all the shipping and I shipped the battery back to them. A little bit of time passed. They were going through a move in their facility, I guess. And when I followed up with them, they checked on it and lo and behold, I was correct. There was an issue with one of the cells in the battery system, which is kind of interesting. That really rarely ever happens, according to what they're telling me, as well as kind of what I'm seeing online with a lot of the lithium-ion gurus out there. So pretty rare that the cell has the issue. It's usually the BMS, the internal battery monitoring system, but turned out that one of the cells was not operating properly, not allowing it to kind of equalize with the other cells. In batteries, if your cells are not equalized, you're only going to be able to charge that thing up to the top level of your weakest cell. So that's what I was experiencing. It was never fully getting up to charge, even though a couple of the cells were supposedly operating properly. So I'm hoping we solve the issue. They sent me a brand new battery free of charge. Here that guy is. This is how they come packaged, obviously with their little frequently asked question sheet and all that kind of stuff. All right, where's my multimeter? All right, so this is currently at a resting voltage of 13.34. So that seems kind of on par with what it should be, I believe. 13.3 to 13.4% should be resting somewhere between 90% and 99% full. So I'm guessing it's more towards the 99%. It's coming straight from the factory. I'm gonna go ahead and get this battery installed into the truck, throw a significant load on it, and watch it tick down on the Victron battery monitoring system while I get this garage cleaned up, praying it will perform as expected and we will be good to go. All right, there's my Victron Connect app right there. It's powered up. We're good to go. It's showing 100% state of charge, 13.4 volts, which is fully charged according to that scale. We're gonna go ahead and just throw on the breaker to my fuse system and see what that drops down to. Shouldn't really drop down to much. I got 1.92 amp draw on the system. That is my fridge starting to power up. It's gonna kick up higher and higher. So we're at 5.72, 100%. We're at 98%. When I was doing this before, I was drawing a lot less amperage. I'm trying to draw a whole bunch of amperage right now all at one time so that I can pull this down, you know, in a reasonable fashion where I don't have to sit out here and watch it for 5 hours. I think that's pretty much confirmed. I think the battery is operating properly. We're down to 12.66 volts, still outputting 23.16 amps, almost down to 10% here. You know, it's had alternating currents and draws on it for probably the past 4 hours, and it's pretty much performing and pulling down in line to where I think it really should be. I'm going to go ahead and now flip the front breaker that is going to allow the front and the back battery to connect together through the Redarc BC to DC charger. I'm going to go up and fire up the truck and see if it starts charging the battery like it should. I'm going to throw the breaker on my circuit panel so it'll cut all power that I have going out back here. So in theory, there should be no power draw on the system right now. We should start to see the voltage coming in, starting to creep up, and the state of charge starting to creep up. After going through and diagnosing my dual battery setup, I'm super excited to announce that it seems to be operating properly. After fully drawing down the system to just below 10% of the battery life left, I decided to drive the truck the next day, let the Redarc system fully charge that battery back up to 14.4 volts. Throughout the day driving around, I left the fridge as a constant draw on the system, drawing about 4 to 5 amps, and the Redarc system was continuously putting in the 25 amps until it went up to that 14.4 volts, where I saw it then taper down to a 13.6 volt float charge, and it performed flawlessly. I drove it another day just to watch that system pull down with the fridge and then kind of build back up with the charger, and it looked like it was operating perfectly. Since Friday, I parked the truck, the battery was at 100% state of charge, and I left the fridge on running, and it's run for probably close to like 42 hours so far, and with the Victron battery monitoring system, I'm currently showing a 41% state of charge, and since the fridge goes through a cycle of on and off, it's currently not running, and it's showing an infinite state of charge. So basically the only thing that's been pulling on the system for the past 48 hours is that fridge, and it's maintaining the temperature perfectly. Seems kind of funny, but a lot of times I get hit with Murphy's Law. I feel like a little bit more than others. If something can go wrong, it does. But the nice thing about that is I have this YouTube channel, and when things happen to me and go wrong for me, or I struggle through projects or whatever it is, it just gives me that opportunity to share my experiences and trials and tribulations, figuring things out as I go with all of you guys on YouTube. This scenario specifically I've been going through really gave me the opportunity to dive into all of the different companies and components that I used in my dual battery system. I was able to call up Redarc multiple times and work with their customer service to figure out if their system was working properly, and I have nothing but great things to say about their products as well as their customer service. It was phenomenal. Also, the obvious one on here is Battleborn Batteries. At the end of the day, there was an issue with the battery itself, and it turned out to be a pretty uncommon issue. They worked with me absolutely every step of the way without question, spending tons of time on the phone and through email troubleshooting the issue, sending me a loaner charger to make sure the system is properly charged up. Once we figured out that it needed some more diagnostic that they needed to do in their shop, they paid for all of the return shipping of the battery, and then when they figured out that it was something that was a manufacturer defect, they sent me a new battery for free, also on their dime for shipping. And that says a lot about their company and is honestly super important to me with all of the gear that I use, that I review, and that I recommend to you guys, because you can choose to go any level from the highest end stuff to the lowest bargain end stuff, but what really matters in the grand scheme of manufacturing is the company standing behind their product, communicating well, and making it right when something is wrong. I can honestly say that Battleborn did that 100% every step of the way, and I would absolutely recommend their products to anybody looking to get into the lithium battery game with their setups. Battleborn, if you ever see this, I just want to say I appreciated working with your team so much. You put everything in layman's terms when I needed it to, and just helped me every step of the way, so I thank you a lot for that. If you like this video, please mash that like button to let me know I've done a good job. Consider hitting the subscribe button to be notified when I put out a new video each week. If you have any questions or comments, this video might be one where you have some questions throughout the thing. Throw them in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer any of them that are down there, and I just love interacting with you guys and kind of building out this community around my channel. I'm going to throw a link in the description section as well to, the websites with the different stuff that I referenced through Battleborn Battleborn or Redarc, as well as some links to Amazon if you want to purchase any of the items for your dual battery system. Definitely helps me out, just giving the channel a little bit of an affiliate boost through Amazon. And lastly, if you want to follow me on other platforms, hit me up over on Instagram. It's at EvergreenOverland, as well as evergreenoverland.com. I really appreciate it. Get out there, take on some of the challenges of working on your own vehicle and outfitting your own overland rig. Thanks for watching.